morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Welcome to the APFA Retirement Seminar on April 16th, 2025.
We're your retirement specialists,
We are.
Hi.
This is Kim Coates-Tuck.
and this is Patrick Hancock.
There we go.
There it goes.
All right. Technical difficulties there. Hey, who are we? This is Kim Coates-Tuck. She's the National Retirement Specialist. I'm Patrick Hancock, the APFA Retirement Specialist Emeritus, and I have no idea who those people in those pictures are because clearly, yeah. So, and we always like to give a shout out to Ron Harris. Ron Harris is responsible for an awful lot of the information that in slides you will see today. And this is Ron and I on a layover in London. He may have been slightly overserved at that point. I'm just not sure. No. So that's who we are. Who we are not is we are not the company. This is your union meeting. And I have been a union rep for way too many years. And I have developed a cynical disregard for the management attempts at my company to manage people. And so I sometimes say things that are rude about our management. And if I do and it offends you, you'll get over it.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, sorry, not sorry. We're also not your financial advisors. We will tell you many times in this presentation that you need financial advisors. We're not it. We're also not your attorneys. We're not your Medicare advisors, and we're not your Social Security advisors. And the fact that we mention those tell you that you will probably need most of those people. So I've got a question for you. As of April 2025, gee, that sounds really current.
Really current.
Wow, we have 28,007. Those last seven are really important. 28,007 members.
Everyone's important.
Everyone's important. And my question is, how many of those 28,000 do you think are age 80 and older? You're wrong. It's 30. We have 30 people age 80 and older. And running down the list, we've got 205 that are over 75, 665 over 70. Good Lord, 2,034 over the age of 65. Oh my gosh, look at this, 60 to 64, we have 4,732. And if memory serves me correctly, that's actually the largest bucket. Heading on down, we've got 4,292, 2,101. 1445, 1182, 2400, 38.
Get big again.
Oh yeah, look at the size of those groups. Yeah, all those cute things you're seeing in the operations area. That's all these people here, and then the youngest group is 1400, and that means that over 55, we have 11,900, almost 12,000 people over the age of 55 who are eligible to retire today. So if it seems like the APFA and the company and a lot of people in the United States are putting forth a lot of effort to get you the resources you need to be smart about your retirement, that's why. It is so important to so many of our members and so relevant to so many of our members that that you should actually take some comfort in that there's a lot of people working to get you there. Kim, what can you tell us about housekeeping?
Okay, so general housekeeping. This good slide handout that we mail out or you can download from the APFA website has the same information as the presentation. So you don't have to take notes necessarily if you don't want to, although if it helps you remember better, you can always take notes. But the good slide is a very useful resource. If there are questions, you want to submit them via chat and we will do our best to answer all your questions as the issues come up throughout our presentation. There in the good slide handout, there are some very useful checklists. We've had a few questions already about how soon should I start planning. Well, it gives you some general guidelines in terms of what you want to do, 6 months out, 90 days out, 60 days out, and so on. Obviously, you can be planning for this your whole career because you're worrying about your income and, making plans about where you want to live after you retire and what you want to do and so on. But these are kind of the closer range checklist about what you need to do. There's a contact list, and the very most important contact of all, which is retirement@apfa.org. If you have questions that you think are a little, outside the general questions, you can always submit them, email me, and I'll do my best to answer them. And if I don't know the answer, Patrick probably does.
Or we know who knows the answer.
Also, the other contact lists in the back of the Good Slide handout are, the benefits contact, Fidelity, where you send your Medicare form, all that good stuff that you need to know when you're getting ready to retire. All right, so we're going to cover in our presentation what retirement really means. So it's comprised, generally speaking, of 3 elements. First, you need to think about your medical benefits or your medical coverage, since there's not a whole lot in the way of medical benefits. Your retirement benefits, which are like your travel privileges and so on, the perks that come along with retirement. And then we've got your pension and 401k benefits, which that's kind of how it used to be. Now it's 401k/pension benefits, because for most people these days, we don't have pensions, and the 401k is going to be your primary source of income in retirement. And yeah, don't ask us about the stock market right now. Well, it's a little crazy. Just kind of, try not to panic.
My 201k.
Your 201k. Ah! All right, so the medical benefits we often refer to as the incredible shrinking basket, maybe even the non-existent basket, because our prepaid medical benefits were done away with throughout various bankruptcies, unfortunately. So that's what is driving so many people hanging around until they're eligible for Medicare. So maybe having the RHRA that you can use to pay for premiums and so on could be a good bridge for some people, but hey, a lot of people have to use their sick time while they're flying. So, it's not always going to be an option for everyone. All right, so some important questions you need to ask yourself if you're considering retirement are, what do you need to retire? What do you get in retirement? What about income? That's very crucial. And what else do you need to research? So now we're going to talk a little bit about what you need to retire. Well, first of all, you need to be eligible. You need money. And you need to be ready. That's key. So in order to retire, you must have, this is the eligibility component, you have to have at least 10 years of company seniority based on your date of hire. And in addition to that, your age plus your years of service has to equal 65 or more. So if you're cute and junior and you're just going to want to work a short time to get the past privileges, you work 10 years and you're only 35, you're not eligible because your age plus your years of service equals 45, and you have to wait till your age plus your years of service equals 65 or more before you can exit with those past privileges and so on. Oh, and there's a really good eligibility calculator now that's available on JetNet. We used to always tell people that they had to call team member services and then go to retirement services, and they could speak to somebody that would tell them if they are eligible for the 65-point plan. But now if you go on JetNet and you scroll down before all the news and all the fluff, and you'll see team member services, and then you'll see a little box that says retirement. You click on that, and one of the options is in there is calculate. It says 65-point plan calculator, and you can put in your employee number and what else? Your birth date, I think. Those are the 2 things they take, and it will calculate whether or not you're eligible for the 65-point plan. So that's really, really cool. They actually put something useful on JetNet. Also, yeah, there is a mandatory notification form, and we'll talk about that further in the presentation. But if you want to retire and you found out you're eligible for the 65-point plan, the proper process is now submitting an online retirement notification form. All right, money. Patrick, let's talk about money.
Sure. All right. So When you're doing some long-range planning, there are two major questions you have to answer. The first is, how much do I need to have saved on the day I retire to last the rest of my life? The goal. And that's actually one of the more common questions that we get is that, well, how much do I need to retire? And I don't know, because I don't know your life circumstances. Her number is going to be different than my number, which is different than your number. Are you married? Are you single? Do you have, 22 businesses that are spinning off income for you? Or are you, $100,000 in debt? All of those are going to generate a different goal number for you. And then the second question is, once you've calculated that goal number, how do I get there? How much do I need to save each year, each paycheck to reach that goal? And this is an excellent question for a financial planner because that's what they do. The good ones have all of these tools and spreadsheets and apps that they throw all of the information in and generate some scenarios for you. So definitely you need to talk to a financial planner. So that's the first question. And then the next question is, observation is, if you're thinking about retiring soon and haven't had this discussion with yourself and others in the past, you're going to be a little while because retirement planning is a long range project. It's not something you do, between breakfast and lunch on Tuesday.
Unless you have to.
Unless you have to, yeah. I heard a great comment the other day, and it's most people spend more time planning their vacation than their retirement. And I think that's sadly true. My favorite meme in this whole one is the one down at the bottom that said, I said you held Christmas off. Yay, all right. So got this. The general goal is you want to maintain the same lifestyle you had while you were working. And the problem I have with this is I'm tired of being poor. I want to be one of those wealthy retirees I see in the commercial, jetting off to the Caribbean, using my Silver Sneakers membership to go to the gym and party with everyone there. But apparently that's not the plan. Apparently the plan is that you want to maintain the same lifestyle you had. So in order to do that, if you retire at 67, the first question you have to ask is, how long am I going to live?
What?
What do you mean, how long am I going to live? What kind of question is that? And see, that's the problem with retirement planning. And it'll be the most frustrating part is because that's the first of our answers. And obviously, I mean, there's not an answer for that. So instead of calling the answers, let's call it, that's the first of our guesstimates. Well, let's look at life expectancy because, averages. So your life expectancy in 2024 is 78.4 years. 2020 had the largest decline since World War II. 2024 was the first year that curve started to tick back up. So we're nowhere near where we were. Thank you, opioid epidemic. Thank you, deaths of despair. Thank you, COVID.
Right.
Still, I mean, I pulled these numbers up last week and I was shocked to see that COVID is still in the top 5 reasons people die in the United States. So that's scary. 75.8 for men. And that's going to be 81. What? Wait, no, what? Yeah, that can't be right. No. Yeah.
That we need the money to
Oh,
retire
God,
even
guys.
more. Women, pay attention to that. You're probably going to live longer.
You are. And guys, I got a question. If we run the world, how did we let that happen? I
How
don't
did
know.
we let that happen?
Really? So, so you add those together, 78.4 years. It's going to be less for African Americans, 72.8, and more for Hispanics, 80%. I got all of this information out of the National Vital Statistics Report, volume 64. Book 6. And I tell you, folks, I have found the best cure for insomnia. You take this book with you on your layovers, you will sleep like a baby. But that becomes the first of our guesstimates. And the problem is that's just an average. Half of us are going to die sooner. Half of us are going to die later. And, we all want to be in the half that dies later, but statistically, half of us will die before the average. The question you have to ask yourself is, which half are you in? Because that actually drives a lot of your retirement planning. I love to tell the story. I started going gray in high school, and it was really, really annoying. I mean, you're trying to fit in, and now I'm getting gray hair. I went home one day and I said, Mom, I discovered in biology class that this gray hair I'm getting in high school is all your fault because everything about a man's hair comes on the mother's genes. So like, what's going to happen next? Am I going to go bald in college? Did my uncles or grandparents or anybody go bald early? She said, oh, honey, none of them ever lived that long. Great. Thanks, Mom. So that becomes the first of our guesstimate, but it's not the only one. There are other guesstimates. So for instance, salary projection. We know salaries always go up, and they just went up fairly substantially. Thank you, APFA and the negotiating team. Yes. But they don't always go up in the airline industry. So you got to kind of figure out what's my salary going to be over the next 30 or 40 years. Thank you very much. What's inflation going to be? Well, inflation always goes up, except for 10 years. We had like close to 0% inflation. It was all, 0.5 and below, much to the Fed's consternation.
Looks like it might be going up again.
It
See.
is going up.
There
Yeah.
are so many questions right now.
So many questions. And then the investment return on the stock market. Return is kind of a optimistic. Yeah. So
You have to laugh. You just have to.
You
laugh.
have to laugh because it's too sad to cry. And all of these guesstimates is why you need to work with a financial planner, because they can help you work through that. Okay, so we get that. And now comes the hardest question of all. Are you ready to retire? So you're eligible, you got money kind of figured out. Are you ready to retire? And the thing is, you need to be ready. We talk to a lot of flight attendants who've already retired, and they call with some problem. The company's figured out some new way to screw them, and we fix it. And then before they hang up, and say, no, wait a minute, I got a question for you. Was it good for you? Did you retire at the right time? Are you happy with the retirement? And like 98, 99% of them, oh, it's the best thing I ever did. I don't know why I waited. My life was so full. I don't know how I ever had time to fly. I'm like, yeah, great. I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to that 1 or 2% that aren't happy. Why aren't you happy? And almost inevitably, it's because they didn't plan. $40,000, man, that'll last me the rest of my life. Or they took the sudden out.
Sudden out?
Sudden out. Yeah, that's where your flight service manager and the union rep meet you on the jet bridge. And the union rep whispers in your ear as you're going up the jet bridge, I got your retirement. I recommend you take it. You didn't plan. You didn't have a chance to plan. Or your doctor says, you can't go back. That's
hard, but it does happen.
You're not ready, and that's hard, and you didn't get a chance to plan. So I have good news for you. You all are here planning. So you're going to be in the 98% that's happy that you retired. So the question is, have you reached that point? And we're flight attendants. We talk to everyone. We'll talk to our sister. We may talk to our spouse. Who knows? We'll talk to our financial planners. We'll talk to that non-rev on the jump seat that we've never seen and we'll probably never see again. And because they all know and love you, they will tell you what's right for them. That's just the way people work. You have to figure out if you are ready. I heard a great description not too many months ago from a retired flight attendant. She said, when I became a stewardess, because when she started, it was stewardess, she said, I wasn't sure I was ready. I wasn't sure I was going to be happy doing it, but it seems to have worked out okay. And I had echoes of those feelings when I was trying to decide if I was ready to retire. And when all of the data lined up and said, you're ready, I just decided to go with it. And she says, it's working out even better than that. So, yeah. All right. So how and when? Well,
once you decide you're ready.
Once you decide you're ready, you're all set to go.
What
how
next?
And when? Well, the mandatory notification form. As Kim pointed out before, it's on Crew Portal, Department's Flight Attendant Service Center forms. It is also on your EFB and Comply 365 under forms. So you will be able to get to it one way or the other. I always struggle with the EFB filling out the forms, but I just get one of the junior people to help me, I guess. And when is if you're electing the RHRA, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, you have to give 4 months notice. If you're not electing the RHRA, no notice is required. You still have to fill out the form. And you've worked for this company long enough, you know that it takes a while to get anything substantial done. So we recommend you give them, minimum of 2 weeks, 30, 60 days notice, because it's not hurting you
unless you just don't want to mess with it. But we recommend you try and give them, 30 days notice by filling out the form. And even if you're retiring mid-flight, like between the beverage and the meal service, I'm out of here, you still have to fill out the form. So we recommend that.
And we have a kind of a pro tip because, okay, if you're doing the RHRA, you have to at least give 4 months. But if you're not, a good rule of thumb is 30 days. But if you need to do anything like, order a new suitcase before you go, anything like that, or maybe get your reimbursed for your TSA pre-check and global entry, do that before you submit the retirement notification form, because once you've submitted it, the company's probably not going to pay for it again.
Yeah, they're going to get wise that you really don't need that extra suitcase. They do not know how long my Christmas list
So
is.
probably 4 months is as far out as you would want to submit it. And then, but even if you submit it 4 months out, do all that ordering of stuff or get your needs taken care of before you submit it. So.
Absolutely. And if you need, some sort of documentation on the amount of notice, you can find this on the Flight Service website. It's the implementation update about the RHRA. And it says right on there, if you aren't taking the RHRA and just want your 865 per hour sick time, no advance notice is needed. We still recommend you do it just because, cause. All right.
It gives you peace of mind,
Really?
knowing it's done, basically.
Kim, do we have any questions?
Okay, we need to find our questions.
What slide are we at? Okay, this is for you, Kim. The question is, how soon before retirement do you recommend preparing for benefits? Like 3 to 5 years. I've got more than 5 years before I retire.
Yeah, and part of the question is, what do you mean by benefits? If you mean medical benefits, you have to decide if you're going to work until you're 65, because that's when the Medicare eligibility kicks in. If you have another source of benefits, like through a spouse, then, or you're going to take another job, then you don't have to worry about that so much getting to age 65. If you want to use the RHRA to cover, your 18 months of COBRA, you could do it, a year and a half out. So you kind of need to look at all those things, like what sort of benefits are you going to be choosing as far as health benefits based on when you retire. And then if you, by benefits, you mean your maybe pension benefits, if you have a pension, that's most of the LUS pension holders are already taking their pension. As long as they've reached the full pension age, they can start that at any time. And we will cover the full pension age later in our presentation. And then for the LAA pension holders, as long as you have 50, you can start your pension early at age 55 and retire. Once you have at least 15 years of retirement eligibility service. And if you're 60, you have to have at least 10 years of retirement eligibility service. So, and we'll cover that later in the presentation as well. So if you have questions about any other benefits other than pension or medical benefits that I'm not addressing, send us another question.
And that also brings up a really good point. If you're thinking about, particularly when you're talking to your financial planner, and if you're one of those persons that's trying to get out here the earliest possible, I think we calculated a couple of months ago that the earliest you could leave is like age 47 if you started flying at, 21 or 20. But if you're trying to get out, one of the things you have to have in your financial plan is, what am I going to do for health insurance? Because that is a major line item in all of our budgets, and it just keeps growing. So yes. All right. I think we are on to what do you get in retirement? Kim, what have you got?
Okay. So what do you get in retirement? Not as much as you used to. You do get travel privileges. You get paid out for your vacation and sick time. You get the option to elect the RHRA, which can be a really big benefit. I've been hearing positive things from people that have taken it. Once they figure out how to submit their claims on Fidelity, then they really like it. You get a retirement gift. You get the status of being a retired flight attendant. Yes, and everybody wants to know all about your fabulous life and glamorous career. And you get the option to purchase some really expensive medical insurance if you're between the age of 55 and 65 and eligible for the 65-point plan. So let's talk about the travel benefits. Basically, you get D1, you get D2R, D2P, D3, AA20, and 20% off Advantage tickets. D1, you notice, does not have an R after it. So you get the same amount of D1s every year with no R. So yay, one good thing. All of your non-rev travel is booked via non-rev travel planner, which is available on the retirees website, www.retirees.aa.com. Your service charges and taxes are charged through your credit card, just like they are now. If you get on the flight, obviously. And then your D3s, you want to make them put in their own credit card. So when they travel, it doesn't go on your credit card. That's just a little tip we have. Always good to know. And most people are already doing that these days. Your Z fares are booked through My ID Travel, which is also on the retirees website. And most of the same airlines that allow you to do Z as an active employee also allow you as a retiree. There may be a few that don't, but most of them do. Unfortunately, when we retire, we're giving up our jump seat authority. It sucks because we depend on that so much, and we don't have KCM to get through security quicker. Although with the amount of times they're doing random these days, it's not always that quick. So you can't always count on it. Non-rev friendly travel agencies exist, such as Perks. Used to be Dargal, but Dargal got absorbed into Perks. So you want to take cruises and so on. Those things exist. Also, there's a lot of deals and discounts that are available on the retirees website, just like they are on the active website. So, travel perks and also discounts if you want to go to classes or buy a computer or things like that. And your FedEx discount, of course.
Yay.
Yay. Got to keep that. So pre-check and global entry, you're going to be paying for yourself after you retire. If the timing works out that you can get the company to pay for it one more time before you submit the retirement notification form, by all means, do that. All right, your sick time and vacation. So your unused sick time, if you do not elect the RHRA, is paid out at a paltry $8.65 per sick hour, which kind of sucks. Now, the ability to get paid out for your sick time or to do the RHRA is contingent upon you being eligible for the 65-point plan. So just keep that in mind. All your unused and accrued vacation is going to be paid out at the full contractual rate. 4 hours per day at your rate of pay, and the top rate is $82.24 at the moment.
Okay.
Now, I talked to a girl yesterday, and she's planning her retirement for November 1st because, hey, she turned 65 in October, and our pay rate changes on October 1st. So when she gets paid out for her sick time, she's going to get paid out at the higher rate. So if you're kind of thinking of retiring this year and you don't want to go right away, then, you could wait until our pay increases on October 1st and retire after that and get a little bit more payout for your vacation. So when you retire, your vacation payout is not eligible for the employer 401k match and company contribution. However, it is eligible to be, if you elect to put a portion of it into your 401k or 100% of it into your 401k, as long as you haven't already maxed it out. So a lot of people will change their election before they retire. So a lot or all of that vacation payout will go into their 401k. That's what I said. Pro tip, you can change your 401k election in time for this last payout, and you can do it anytime on the Fidelity website. All right, the retiree health reimbursement arrangement. So if you're eligible for the 65-point plan, and you want to put 50% of the full value of your sick time into your 401k, then you notify the company 4 months in advance. You put in that retirement notification form that we told you about. And one person I talked to thought that they would get 50% of the value of their sick time into the RHRA, and then they could still get paid out for the rest of it. No, it's one or the other. You either get paid out for all of it at $8.65 per sick hour, or they calculate the full value of all your sick time, and then they put 50% of that into the RHRA. It's usually a lot better deal than the $8.65, but whatever works best for you. So the RHRA is a notional account. So what they put in there is not actual money, but it's credit for reimbursement for eligible health expenses. So like your Medicare premiums, for instance, your out-of-pockets for prescription drugs, copays for doctor's visits, all that you can get reimbursed for. Getting your, eyes done or something, probably not unless it's medically necessary. So the RHRA is administered by Fidelity, just like the FSA and the HRA and the HSA when you're active. And a list of eligible expenses is found on the IRS website. And I think you can also link to that from my.aa.com, where the benefits information is, and probably from the Fidelity website as well. So if you're not clear on what's eligible, you can look there and see. And there's a lot of stuff you can put in for. I've been talking to a lot of the retirees that took the VOPS, and they really think that, other than a few little glitchy things every now and then about submitting claims, they think it's a really good benefit. It's helped them a lot. All right, if you retire under the 65-point plan, you are eligible for a retirement gift. Fabulous. Within 30 days of your retirement, basically, this is kind of old. This is another thing we keep saying we need to update and we keep forgetting. But when you submit the retirement notification form, a message will go to the company that AA contracts with. And once you submit once you retire, then they're going to start processing your retirement gift catalog, and it will probably be sent out 30 days after you retire. So you do not need to notify your manager or anything like that. It's all done automatically when you submit the retirement notification form. The catalog comes with a commemorative certificate, and options include a wide array of dust collectors such as jewelry, some glass plaques. Here's an example of the lovely American Airlines tail that you can have sitting on your shelf should you desire. You can also choose to donate to the Wings Foundation if you don't want a gift. If you're kind of downsizing and decluttering and so on, Wings will be happy to take the donation and help other flight attendants who are working as a gift to them and to yourself. Also, another tip is before you can do this after you submit the retirement notification form, you're still eligible, but before you retire, give yourself a gift by using all your nonstop thanks points, because once you retire, you can't use them anymore. All right, status. Your status is going to be changing from Sky Goddess to, wait for it, Cat Rancher. Yay! That's because it's me and Patrick aspire to be cat ranchers when we retire. We like the little kitties. So don't take offense if that's not your thing. It's just indicative of a big change of your, lifestyle and everything, because flight attendant, it's all about the lifestyle as much as about the job. So retirees submit an online request for a retiree ID, and you can do this prior to retirement on JetNet, or you can do it after retirement from the retiree's website. You can use it for discounts on shipping, hotels, car rentals, FedEx, as we mentioned before. A government issued photo ID is still required for travel. So this retiree ID is not what you're going to use to travel. You use your government issued ID, your passport, your driver's license. But if you wear your retiree ID, they might give you some wine or something. You never know.
Or attitude. I don't know.
Yeah, or attitude. Why did it take you so long to retire? So access to the AA retirees website is part of your retirement perks. And on that website, you will find everything you need as a retiree. The payroll access, because, hey, you still have to do your taxes. We've had a lot of questions about that. Where do I find the tax information? So there's a link to the employee pay portal on the retirees website, so you can access that information. And if it's still far enough back, I don't know if e-pays and paperless pay is even still relevant, but any payroll information, it goes back at least 3 years. So if you need that, it's available on the retiree site. And then your detailed sequence history, however, is not available. So if you need that information, you should print it up prior to retirement. All right. If you're not able to retire, guess what? You can just quit. Darn it, I've had enough of working here. Actually, I talked to somebody the other day and she was like, over this company, they're a little bit too nitpicky these days, and I'm taking it personally, even though I shouldn't. So I'm going to go ahead and quit. If you decide to quit, basically, give notification to your flight service manager. There's not a form for just quitting yet. Give them time. Your vacation will be paid out at the contractual rate. You never lose on your vacation. So there's a lot of myths around being paid out for your vacation. You don't have to wait till the end of the year for your vacation to go in. You're accruing your vacation all along. So if you have vacation that you have not bid for yet, that will be paid out at the full rate. If you have vacation that you have accrued that's not even been bid for, you will get credit for that too. So all of your vacation, it's like when you retire, you get a automatic vacation buyback. So you never lose on your vacation when you retire. If you're Legacy US Airways and you qualify, Legacy AA and you qualify for a pension, you need to contact Fidelity to find out how and when, what you need to do to start your pension. Because your pensions, again, if you quit, you still get your pension if you're vested. If you're LUS with a PBGC pension, you may already be taking it, but if you're not, you need to contact the PBGC to find out when you can start that. If you're not retiring, don't qualify under the 65-point plan, you do not get paid out for your sick time, and you don't get the option to take to put it into the RHRA, unfortunately. All right, any questions for this?
Yes, okay, your first question is, let's say I retire on July 1st. How long does it take to get AA to pay out your sick and vacation accrual?
Okay, so normally it takes about 6 weeks. So if you retire on July 1st, you'd probably be paid out on August 15th for all of that vacation that you haven't used.
All right. I am planning on retiring next year in May or June. My CQ month is in May with a grace month of June, and I do not want to go to CQ next year. How do I do that?
Okay, so you submit the retirement notification form either 4 months out, or maybe you don't want to go in May or June, so you'd probably have to submit it if you're not wanting the RHRA at least by April 1st. And then once you submit that, you go to your manager and say, hey, I'm retiring at the end of my grace month. And the FAA says it's legal for me to fly in my base month and my grace month without going to training. So could you please call and have call the training support desk and have them remove the training from my schedule. And your manager can do that for you. Once they know you're going to retire, they really don't want to pay you to go to training. But you do have to have submitted the retirement notification form, and you can't just call up the training support desk. It has to be your manager to request to have that removed.
And don't be shocked if your manager reminds you that if you change your mind, you will not be able to fly.
And you won't be able to hold a bid until you go to training.
Exactly.
And you would be amazed how many people do exactly that. They fly their base month and their grace month, and then they retire at the end of their grace month. That's one of the big three, your company anniversary, your birthday, or not wanting to do training again, or the end of the calendar year. So those seem to be the big four dates that people choose for their retirement. So.
All right. This one's for me. What's the best way to get my vacation paid out if I'm retiring in June? Should I do a vacation buyback or bid for 5 weeks in April and May and get it all before I retire? Or should I wait and take the payout after I've left?
It depends on if you want to work or not, because a lot of people want to fly and then get all the vacation pay later. But then there are probably an equal number of people that, they're kind of over it. They don't really want to fly very much. Those people should bid all their vacation, in May and June and then retire after that. And people that want the big payout after they retire, so any other insights?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. What's most important to you? Do you want to get the lump sum when you leave, kind of as a exit bonus? And you can actually play games with that. Instead of June, let's say you're going to leave at the end of the year, because a lot of people leave at the end of the year. Say you're going to leave on December 31st, and you're bidding for the vacation time that can be paid out anywhere between May of this year and April of next year. You could push all your time past December 31st. So all of that 35 days is going to get paid out after you leave in a lump sum. But here's the thing. You not only have that 35, you've accrued another 35 that you haven't even gotten a chance to bid on, and they will pay that out as well. So you're going to get 70 days.
You're going to get paid for 2 years of vacation.
All in one lump sum.
If you do it that way.
Yeah, and that's going to be quite a chunk of change. So some people really like that whole bonus thing and do it that way.
Or some people spread it out like they do, 5 days a month or whatever for, and then they bid vacation low so they don't have to fly as much. So there's so many different ways to do it depending on, what your wants and needs are basically.
Yeah. And one of the other things is if you are premium pay, like you're a speaker or a purser or all you fly is galley, how do you do that? I can't know. And you will not get that premium if you take it either in buyback or lump sum. You have to use it, and in that month bid and hold only trips with that premium. So it may be worth it. If you're purser, that could be an extra $100 a month. So you want to decide what is going to be most important to you. All right. Kind of the same question for sick time. Should I just use up my sick time so I get paid 100% of it, as opposed to having the company pay a partial payout, or just forget about it and take my $8?
Well, yeah, I would say it depends if they're just taking the $8, they may not have a lot of sick time, So if you don't have a lot of sick time, it makes more sense to use it before you leave. If you're one of those people that never called in sick your whole career and you still have, 900, 1,000 hours of sick time, if you're really healthy and you don't have any medical issues, it's going to be hard to use up all that sick time. So, a good strategy in your planning could be to take the RHRA and use that to offset your health expenses after you retire. But if you need your sick time while you're working, that's the main reason for it. So you could use it if you have a health issue that you can use it for. While you're working, you're going to get higher pay per hour for it. But a lot of people find the RHRA option to be very useful as well. So again, it depends on the particulars of your specific situation.
Yes. All right. This question is for me. I need to buy a house. I'm 61. Should I take $50,000 out of my 401k? If I buy this handyman special I'm currently living in, and I'm going to need 2 loans, one to buy it and one to fix it up, I could take the $50K out of the 401k to buy it, but then I need another loan to fix it. What should I do? This is a perfect question, financial planner, because there's a couple of different things going into that. One is how much are you paying for the money if you take it from your 401k? And there's 2 parts to that. How much am I paying? One is how much am I paying interest, paying back into my account? And the second is what am I losing out on because that 50K isn't in the 401K earning? If I'm earning 10% a year and I'm only paying 6% on the note back to myself, well, I'm losing that 4% I did that the 50K didn't earn. So that's a great question, financial planner. The other thing to think about is if you have the option of taking money out or getting money from a bank, some other loan, and you start down this project and you didn't take the money out of your 401K, you kind of have that as a backstop. I mean, it's kind of a safety net because you could take that money out later. So a couple of different levers working on that, but that's a great question for a financial planner. We are not your financial planners. Okay, here's another Patrick question. I am currently contributing to a 401K. If I remain an active AA employee after reaching age 72, am I required to take RMDs or are they deferred to whenever I retire? And then are RMDs monthly or annually? Okay, the first question is, if you have your money in a 401K and you are still working for the employer that sponsors that 401K, RMDs do not apply to you. Our 30, 80-year-olds who have American Airlines 401K are not paying RMDs. However, be aware, if you take that 401K and you roll it into an IRA, because the Fidelity rep said that would be a really good idea, when you reach age 72, you will pay RMDs out of your IRA, even if you are still working. So that's one of the differences between 401Ks and IRAs is RMD requirements. And then the second question is, are RMDs monthly or annually? They're annually. You can take the money all out on December 30th for this year, and it qualifies as an RMD for this year. There are times where you're allowed to take it out up until April 15th of next year, and it qualifies for this year. But those are very specific and specialized rules. Make sure you talk to a financial planner about doing that RMDs.
Anything else?
Yes. Which fund should I withdraw from first, my 401K or my 401K Roth? I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but that depends on your tax situation. So you may find that it's one, the other, or a little bit of both. And let me give you a real quick, simple view. My taxes are I'm in the 26% bracket, and I could make another $30,000 and still be in the 26% bracket. I might want to go ahead and take out $30,000 out of the regular 401K, so that if somewhere down the road I'm in the 30% bracket, then I saved money on taxes by taking it out when I was in the 26% bracket. Well, why would I be in a higher bracket? I control that. No, you don't. RMDs, required minimum distributions, may be large enough that they push you into a different bracket without you even wanting to be there. That's one of the weird things about retirement, is you will find that you are having money come in that you don't want, which is not anything I can ever relate to. So,
I dream of that.
I dream of having that problem, and I'm sure I'll complain about it when I get there. Here's one for Kim. Hey, new hires in the 401K, when are we eligible to get the company match? Also, is it 8% or what is it now?
Okay, so it is, what, 9%?
9%.
Mm-hmm. So you get 4% company contribution, and then 4.5, no, 4%.
5%.
5%, okay. My math brain isn't working today, and does it ever work, really? That's why I let Patrick do the figure.
Yeah.
So 4%, is it 4% company contribution, or is it 5% company contribution and 4% match?
I don't know. I can't remember. It's 9%.
It's 9% total between the company contribution and the match. So basically, you can start putting in yourself. You can put in whatever percentage you want of your pay from day one, but the company contribution, and if you don't put in for yourself, the company automatically puts you in at 3% or 3.5% when you start out. So you're putting in 3.5%. after 12 months on payroll, then you're eligible for the company contribution and match. And since the company contribution is bigger than 3.5%, it's a good idea to go in and raise that to at least 4% so you don't miss out on any of the free money from the company. So,
Yeah, we know you love American Airlines, but don't give them your money.
exactly.
All right. Hey, let's talk about income. What about income? Well, hey, in retirement, you hopefully will have multiple streams of income.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, we tend to talk about the 5 streams of income: 401k, your IRA, your Social Security, your savings. And savings may be more than just, how much you have in your share account down at the credit union, but we'll talk about the different ways you'll see savings. And then if you have a pension, your pension as well. And I like to think of having those different 5 streams of income as like having a 5-legged stool. And the advantage, it is very stable. And the reason that's important is that if something were to happen, say, Kim was talking about Social Security. If Congress were to say, hey, you saved money in a tax-deferred 401k, or your employer made contributions to a pension that were tax deductible, you don't deserve as much Social Security, and took that away from you, they wouldn't do that. Oh, yeah? Remember how Social Security used to be at 65 and now it's 67 or somewhere in there, depending on when you were born? Yeah, they did that in order to balance the budget, and that came directly out of our flesh and blood. But every time I look at this list, I am so happy that I am a member of a union that cares about its members and their financial future, and works to make sure that as many of these channels are available to me. And I contrast that to the over 50% of people on Social Security, but that's all they got. I mean, what kind of security is if your entire financial life is dependent on the U.S. Congress?
Scary.
Scary, scary. Good Lord save us. Well, yeah, I've got that 401k. And what about my 401k loan? Well, you've got a couple of options. First option is you continue to pay that loan back on your current amortization schedule. You don't have a paycheck, so you've got to give them the ability to debit your checking account directly, or I suppose you could write them a check every month if you can find checks anymore. And the second option is stop making payments, and they will take the outstanding balances of distribution, which will be taxed as income and subject to penalty if you're not yet age 59 and a half. And that's a very bad option, because now that money is no longer in your 401k earning income. So bad choice, but that's the other thing. Also about the 401k, one last thing to remember, your 401k is going to freeze for the first 30 days of your exit from the company. I mean, freeze solid. You can't make changes. You can't put money in. You can't take money out. It's just frozen. So if you're going to need money in that first 30 days out of your 401k, you should consider rolling a little bit of that out of the 401k prior to exiting, so that you will have access to that. I do want to point out that if you need money, cash, out of your 401k in the first 30 days of retirement, you may not quite be ready to retire. Go talk to a financial planner first. You also have a couple of other options. You can roll your 401k into an IRA. You can leave it. You can roll it over to a new 401k. You get another job. Welcome to Walmart. Welcome to Walmart. They've got a great 401k plan. You can roll it. They'd be glad to have you roll it over to their plan, because the more people in the plan, the cheaper the overhead is. So our plan is huge. We have a huge plan. What's that, like 138,000
Something like that.
participants in it, more participants than there are employees. And therefore our costs are really low. The management costs on our 401k is less than $100 a year. It doesn't matter whether you've got, $2,000 or $2 million, it's less than $100 a year. That's dirt cheap. And if you like that, you can leave it where it is and manage it through Fidelity. And more people are doing that, because there's virtually nothing you can get rolling it somewhere else that you can't get through the Fidelity, the brokerage window or something. But talk to a financial planner who's getting paid to give you advice and not commissions for their advice. So yeah. So let's look at the IRA. The IRA has that pre-tax and post-tax, like we were talking about with the 401k, the Roth. The Roth IRA was the original Roth. The only problem with the IRA is that there are income limits. In 2025, you can't make contributions if you're more than 150,000 single or 236,000 married. And so for many married couples, they get over that threshold quicker than you actually expect. My neighbor called the other day and was screaming and yelling that he was doing his taxes, and they made him take back his IRA contributions. I says, it's because you made too much money. Cry me a river for you. But anyway, yeah. And then he muttered something about me being a member of a union that has a 401k, and I hung up on it. Yeah. So one of the things we talked about that Roth, the conversion of your 401k into an IRA, and you can actually roll it back into your 401k if you're still an active employee. But the second you leave, you can't roll money back into the 401k. So that's a one-way door after you've retired into an IRA. IRAs are great, but just make sure that you know what you're doing if you convert it. Sometimes the financial planner tells you blah, 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 and you don't really get it. They sound a lot alike, 401k and an IRA. They both got pre-tax and Roth. They sound like they're the same product. They're not. They're very different. The 401k has some 100% liability protections. The IRA, not so much. The 401k is a product of federal law. So if someone sues you, you declare bankruptcy, if someone's trying to get your money, your 401k is 100% protected from creditors. Your IRA depends on the state you're in. I'm in Texas, and oddly enough, Texas is actually a very debtor-friendly state. So 100% of my IRA is protected. I believe it's Michigan that has a $50,000 protection.
Yikes.
So if you run over the neighbor's chihuahua and they sue you for everything you've got, you get the first $50,000 of your IRA. The grieving chihuahua owner gets the rest if they win. So we were talking earlier about RMDs. RMDs are different depending on whether it's a 401k or an IRA. How people inherit the money from you is different from an IRA and a 401k. So I frequently say, well, I'm a 401k fan. I don't really think one is superior to the other. Just make sure you know what you're trading and what you're getting in exchange for that trade. All right. Questions. Kim, what have we got questions?
Okay, questions. We've got 401k.
Oh, 45. I don't think we've got any.
Okay, we're skipping.
We're going to skip over that and move to the next. Hey, Kim, what can you tell us about Social Security?
Okay, Social Security. I always get stuck talking with boring Social Security. But anyway.
I'll interrupt at some point.
Basically, Social Security may be taken as early as age 62, as late as age 70. So there's no increase after age 70. So don't wait and take it after 70. Take it at 70 or sometime before, but after age 70, you're leaving money on the table if you don't start taking it. Their website with a lot of informative stuff is ssa.gov. So go there if you have questions. There's a lot of useful information. Married couples have some complicated decisions to make as far as when and how to draw their Social Security. If you're single, you have 9 options for taking your Social Security. So multiply that. If you're married, you have 81 possible options for taking your Social Security. So that's why we say, talk to a Social Security advisor, not us. So Social Security advisors can be found, I think, through like government websites in each state. There's Ship or Shine and things like that that can help you. And there's also apps if you're a nerd like Patrick or kind of like to geek out over stuff like that. You can get an app and it will help you figure out how to optimize your Social Security benefits. So pros and cons of taking early Social Security at age 62. One pro is that you get more years of payment. So if you start at age 62, you're going to get more years of payments. And so over time, that averages out to be more if you live longer. However, if you live longer, there's other reasons why you might have waited, and we'll cover some of that. Another pro is that you can get the money now if you need it. That seems to be the main reason for people starting early at age 62. One con is that you're going to get lower payments for the rest of your life. So if you start at 62, you lock that rate in, other than the occasional cost of living increase, your payments aren't going to go up. Also, you're subject to income limits if you start your, until you hit your Social Security normal retirement age. So for most people, your Social Security normal retirement age is age 67 if you were born in 1960 or after that. So the limits, you can make only $23,400 in 2025. That's the income limit. After that, you deduct $1 of your benefits for every $2 you earn over that limit. So, I mean, I know if I was, flying the hard 40, I would make well over that just flying. So even flying low time, if you're still working, it may not be a good idea to start your Social Security early at age 62. The break-even point on early Social Security versus normal Social Security is the average age of death. So again, we get back to that question, when am I going to die? I don't know. I'm trying to find the perfect crystal ball and haven't found it yet. So when should I start? Here's a chart that illustrates what I just said. If you're looking at the blue line, that's someone who started their Social Security early at age 62. If you're starting at age 66, if you're someone who was born prior to 1960, looking at the red line, and where those lines cross is the average age of death. So basically, that gives you kind of an illustration, and look at that, look at your family history and so on, and your general state of health, and that can help you determine when you should start taking your Social Security. All right, so full Social Security at your SSNRA, which again means Social Security normal retirement age. So how do you decide when is my SSNRA? Well, first there's special one-time limits for the year you start your Social Security. So if you reach your Social Security normal retirement age and once you reach your Social Security normal retirement age or full Social Security, you can take that and work with no penalty. So if you reach your Social Security normal retirement age for the months before your birthday month, they give you a slightly higher limit. So you can make more from work. For 2025, you can make up to $62,150 before those income limits kick in. All right, and here's the chart. So if you're not sure when your full Social Security age is, you look at your year of your birth, and this little chart tells you when you can start taking your full Social Security.
All right, so what counts as earnings for Social Security? That's a great question, because you're saying I'm limited on earnings. Well, what's that mean? Well, earnings include income from wages, net earnings from self-employment. You got that little booth down at the White Elephant, you're selling stuff. Those earnings count as earnings. They include bonuses, commissions, severance pay. And you notice all of those things are income based on your work. So the good news is earnings does not include investment income, pensions, capital gains, inheritance. And then here's the important part. Dividends and capital gains won't negatively affect your Social Security benefits directly, even if you decide to file earlier than your full retirement age. So you could leave at age 62, start your pension, be taking money out of your 401k and paying capital gains, and none of that counts as income earnings for determining whether or not you have a penalty for taking your Social Security early. Are there taxes on Social Security? Oh, yeah. However, the good news is the first 15% of your Social Security is tax-free. Warren Buffett doesn't pay taxes on the first 15% of his Social Security. He doesn't know or care, but that's true. Now, how much of the rest of the 85% of your Social Security you're going to pay taxes on depends on how much you make. And here's the chart. So if you're single and you make between 0 and 25,000, not only is the first 15% tax-free, but so is the rest of it. 0% of that is taxable. If you make between 25 and 34,000, well, that first 15 is still not taxable, but the 50% of it is going to be taxable at whatever your current tax rate is. If you're making more than 34, the full 85% is taxable. Remember, the first 15% is not.
So do states pay tax Social Security? In 37 states, your Social Security is tax-free. 13 states do tax some or all of your Social Security. Boo, and here's the bad 13. Why is this in here? Why is this important? Well, you're telling me that where I live is going to depend on what kind of taxes I'm paying? Absolutely. So,
And as a retiree, your income is more fixed, so
Yeah.
every little bit counts.
every little bit counts. Say you're, living in Rocky Mountain High in Colorado, and you're about ready to retire and start drawing your Social Security and your pension. You might want to think about, do I want to move somewhere else where I'm not going to be paying taxes on my Social Security?
That would be a hard choice.
That would be a very hard choice, because I love being high in Colorado. I mean, I love, yeah,
Those Rocky Mountains.
those Rocky Mountains, that's right. So let's talk about savings. How do we get to Let's talk about savings. So savings is not only the amount of cash, stocks, and bonds you have, that you also may have hidden savings as well. So for instance, home equity. And I want to point out, I'm not talking about a reverse mortgage here.
No.
No, the reverse mortgage people just make me crazy, because it's not as abusive as it was 10 years ago. It's still pretty abusive. And it seems real easy because you're not paying anything. You've got money, you've got cash. But what they're really doing is siphoning off all of the equity that you have saved up in that house. And they're giving you a very small percentage in return. So it feels easy, but they're giving you a kiss while they rob you. So yeah. Also life insurance. And I'm not talking about what you get if your spouse mysteriously dies and you have a good alibi. I'm talking about some of us have whole life policies, not the one from American, because that's a term life. But some of us invested in whole life policies, and that builds up cash value over the years as you make premium payments. And they will allow you to borrow money from that or take an advance on your death. And that may also be an additional form of cash. So savings is a lot more than what you might ordinarily think about it. Kim, what can you tell us about pensions?
Okay, so if you have a pension, it's going to depend on which carrier you started out with and where you earn that pension. And that's going to determine when and how you can take your pension. So different rules, largely on the Legacy US Airways side, there's one set of rules. And then on the Legacy AA side, there's another set of rules. And then there's a few other people that fall in there, like the former TWA and former Eastern people, and so on, anyone that has a PBGC pension. So if you're former US Airways and you have a pension, you could have started out at any one of these carriers. So there's a lot of choices, a lot of different options for how it might pan out in terms of starting your pension. So basically, if you started your career at the Trump shuttle, your early pension age is age 52. If you take it early, there's a 3% reduction for every year prior to the full pension age, which is age 62. And that's 3% for taking it early. That's across the board for any of the LUS, LAA, any of the pensions out there. If you started at Piedmont, Allegheny, or US Airways, then your early pension age is age 55 and your full pension age is age 62. If you started at PSA, your early pension age is age 55, but your full pension age isn't until 65. So those PSA people have to wait a little bit longer for the full pension benefit. Any of these people can be taking their pensions while they're still working if they want to start even at the early pension age. All right, for the Legacy AA pension, with 15 years of retirement eligibility service, you can start your pension early at age 55. And for all the Legacy AA pensions, unfortunately, you can't take your pension while you're still at work, which we refer to as double dipping. You have to wait until you retire, unfortunately, except for one tiny loophole that if maybe a dozen people a year fall into. So early pension age 55. The 3% per year applies if you start your pension early, and the full pension age, as long as you have, it reverts to 10 years of retirement eligibility service if you're at the full pension age, and you can start it at age 50 with no, age 60, sorry, with no reduction. Okay, double dipping. I was talking about that a little bit. Basically, there was a restriction on double dipping prior to June 1st of 2021. People used to have to wait until their full pension age on the LUS side, but now they can double dip at the early pension age. But those early pension benefit reductions do still apply. And again, there's no reduction if you wait till the full pension age. So pension options. Patrick, how many different ways can I get my money?
Great question. How many different ways can I get my money? There are three basic ways you can get your pension money. One is a single life annuity. The PBGC calls this a straight life annuity. But fortunately for us, the acronym SLA is the same for both because we're an airline. We run on jet fuel, caffeine, and acronyms. You can share with someone else. And I remind you, it is nice to share. And you can get a minimum number of checks, whether you're alive or not. So, and if you're a legacy AA, you have a fourth option, actually. It's more upfront, less later, the level income option. Let's take a look at those. The single life annuity, SLA, you get a check every month until you're dead, and then it stops. Well, okay, cool. An annuity is a payment every month. And we've got a lot of annuities in our life. Car payments are annuity out. Pension payments are an annuity in. For the life means that it's a life annuity. And then it's for one life yours, which is where we get that acronym's SLA. The SLA is the normal form of benefit.
What does that mean? What's normal?
What's normal mean? Normal. I mean, that's one of those weird words. Yeah, normal. It's normal means that a lot of people take that. The people take the single life annuity. But it also, remember back when we were talking about having to figure out how much I need to save each year to get to my target? When you start working for your employer and they open up a pension plan, they have to make some assumptions because they got to make that same calculation. How much do they have to put away every year you're working to actually have enough money in the pension when you leave? And of course, they want it to be as low as possible.
They think they know how long we're going to
They
live.
think they know how long we're going to live. Yes. And the way they work us, they may be accelerating that. I wonder if there's a connection there. But, and so they make some assumptions. And one of the assumptions they make is that you will take the single life annuity when you retire. And so that's what they're funding for. That's what their target number is. And the thing is, once they figured out what that target number is, that value of the SLA determines the other payment options. Well, let's look at those other options. First off, it's to a pension for you and someone else's life as well. And I remind you that they are going to get the pension after you've left, after and they survive you. So we call it the survivor annuity. Now, you don't get two checks. You get a check until you're dead, and then they get a check after you're dead. So it's a survivor annuity. Now, here's the problem. Remember, it's the same big pile of money. We're just slicing it up differently. So you can choose to leave them between 50 and 100% of what you get, not your SLA amount, but your share of that joint annuity. But here's the problem. The more you leave them after you're gone, the less you get while you're alive. Okay, that's not good.
And remember, your pension is meant for you to live on in your retirement.
Exactly, exactly.
And a lot of situations, it might be appropriate to leave someone to somebody, but there's a lot of situations where maybe you could leave something else that would have more value, like a house, and not, or your 401k, but not necessarily your pension, because they've all been reduced by various bankruptcies.
Exactly, exactly. But you know, Bozo's going to need my pension. Otherwise, they're going to end up living under a bridge after I'm gone. So I'm just going to take the risk. I'm going to bite the bullet. I'm going to take the whole last one alive. So they've got something after I've gone. Oh, well. Oh, what happens if I do that and they die first? Oh my God, I am stuck with that lower monthly amount. I could have had a higher amount with the single life annuity. I think the technical term is you're screwed. However, there is a way to cover that risk. Flight attendants have another option. It's called the pop-up option. And by taking a slightly lower amount each month, you can cover that risk that the joint annuitant dies first. With the pop-up option, if your joint annuitant dies first, the next month you pop back up to the single life amount as though you never made that option. So that's a great way to cover that risk. You will have other employees in the company, pilots, tell you don't do that, because if you take the pop-up option, that you pay for that. You pay for that. By taking a lower amount. Talk to your financial planner. They're the people that have actually thought about this. Most people are going to take one of these two options. By most people, I mean like north of 95% of people are going to be either in the single life annuity or the joint and survivor. But there are those other two options. Let's take a look at them. One is the guaranteed period certain. And you will get a check for 10, 15, or 20 years, or 5, 10, or 15 years, regardless of whether you live that long. Here's the thing. If you say that I want the guaranteed period certain of 20 years and you live for 40 years, you will get the check the whole 40 years. This is not a maximum, it's a minimum. If you die before the 20 years are up, the check continues to come to whomever you decided to leave that as a beneficiary. So
But just for the rest of that period.
yeah, just for the rest of that 20 years. The clock starts when you retire, not when you die. So I don't see very many people take this.
Right. If you choose the 20-year period certain and you live longer than 20 years, your ability to leave it to somebody else ended at 20 years and you made the
Right.
wrong choice.
Yeah, you made the wrong, you should have taken the SLA, but yeah. It's nice to know what's out there. It's going to apply to so few of us, but yeah. There's another option as well. If you're legacy A, you have a fourth option, and that's level income option, which is more upfront and less later. This is, again, applies to very few people. The only time I see it make sense is if you, left early and didn't have time to plan. And once Social Security kicks in, you're going to be kind of okay, but all you have right now is your pension, and it's just not enough. American says, we got a deal for you. We'll give you more of your pension up front, but once Social Security kicks in, either at 62 or your full retirement age, we'll give you less later. And it may be what you have to do now because you need to pay the rent. I'm not even sure it's actuarially sound, but they swear up and down it is. But it's nice to know it's there if you need it. It just doesn't work for very many people at all.
And if you do take that option, make sure you plan for it, because you're seeing this higher amount, but the line below that on the pension estimate shows the amount it's going to drop to either when you turn 62 or 67, depending on the option that you choose. So
Yeah.
make sure you budget for when it drops to the lower amount.
We get 1 or 2 calls a year from people who went, oh, my pension dropped 80%. Yes,
What
because
happened?
that's what you chose and you just turned 67. So yeah. All right. Hey, how do I apply for my pension? Actually, no earlier than 90 days before you start your pension. Oh, no. I have to plan 6 months out. Sorry. No earlier than 90 days before you start your pension. If you're LA, you request a kit over the phone. And what the kit is it's the stack of papers that you have to fill out and sign in ink, no pencil, crayon, please, and send in order to start your pension. And if you're married, your spouse has to sign that as well, and they have to get their signature notarized because they assume that we forged their signature for 40
Why would
years.
they assume that?
Why would they assume that? Yeah. You can either get the kit by calling the pension center at Fidelity, or you can visit netbenefits.com AAs and select the collect tab and follow the prompts.
You can do some of the paperwork online these days, but there are still a few forms that you actually have to sign that they're going to send to you.
Yeah, in paper, because it's a lot of money and it's old rules. So if you're LUS, contact the PBGC directly, either the 800 number or the pbgc.gov, and set up your account. Go do the set up the account now, so you don't have to go through that rigmarole when you're finally ready to do it. So you're getting your pension now. Are there taxes on your pension? Oh yeah. Oh yeah, you pay taxes on everything. In your federal, you pay federal income tax on pensions at ordinary income. So that, again, that depends on what tax bracket you're in that we were talking about earlier. And here's the tax brackets for 2025. So if you're
making 44 to 95,000, which is probably a good target number for Social Security and pension, you're going to be in the 22% bracket. Some states don't tax pensions, 14 states, and there are 4 states that only tax a portion of it. So yeah, you may want to think about what state you live in order to maximize your income in retirement. Now, as a reminder, their mileage may vary. These numbers that we've thrown out there are for some mythical flight attendant and not for you. So, pension tips. Kim, what can you tell us about pension tips?
Okay, here's a few tips about taking your pension. As Patrick mentioned before, but it's good to reiterate, your pension kits can be requested from AA or the PBGC no more than 90 days out from when you want to start the pension, which is usually your retirement date. Pensions always start on the first of a calendar month. So when you're thinking about starting your pension and timing your retirement, forget about the bid month. It's always based on the calendar month. You want to be done with your last trip before the end of the previous calendar month, not the contractual month. And you want any fly-through trips, which shouldn't be left on because we have the retirement notification form, and anything after that date should be removed. But it's always good to check and be cautious and make sure there aren't any fly-through trips going into the month after you're retired, because if you're working, you're not retired, and that could prevent you from getting a month of pension payment, which would not be good. All right, more pension tips. If you are divorced and your marriage and divorce took place like during the period of time, well, I guess if you were married during the period of time where you were earning that pension credit, then you need to provide a copy of your divorce decree or quadro. And quadro is a nasty word. It really messes with your pension. You know how Patrick said anytime you choose those pension options like the joint and survivor annuity, there's no time that you're both getting a check at the same time. Well, with a quadro, which is part of a divorce settlement, they're actually going to carve off part of your pension, and that's the only time where someone could possibly get part of your pension at the same time you're getting it, and it will reduce your pension. So if you are getting divorced, you should try and get some sort of agreement where what's yours is yours, unless what the other person has is much bigger, and then it's worth having a quadro on your pension. So keep all that in mind. We seem to have had quite a few questions about quadros recently. Talk to your lawyer or financial advisor about how to handle that. If you're a widow or widower, you need to include a copy of the death certificate with your kit. The first month of your pension is always going to be paid retroactively, particularly on the LAA side. But, with LUS, when you're starting your pension, it's usually when you hit the eligibility date of your, early pension or full pension. So you process the paperwork, and then once you hit that date, they will start paying you. So it's usually a little bit retroactive. On the LAA side, it's usually about 2 to 4 weeks. So for instance, if you were going to retire on June 1st, you'd probably receive your June pension check and your July pension check on July 1st. And then after that, it would be on the 1st of every calendar month, like clockwork. All right, the qualified pre-retirement survivor annuity. This is an option that the legacy AA flight attendants have when it comes to their pensions. And federal law says that if you pass away before you even start your pension, say you're still working, you haven't started your pension, you pass away, then your spouse automatically gets a 50% joint and survivor annuity. So that's good. Your spouse will get something, but this qualified pre-retirement survivor annuity form, QIPSA, we call it, it allows you to leave 100% or 100% joint and survivor annuity to your spouse if something were to happen to you before you commence your pension benefits. So it's a good thing to have on file if you're a legacy AA flight attendant who's married and want to make sure somebody gets your pension if you pass away before you start the benefits. And the form can be found on the Fidelity website at www.netbenefits.aa.com. And flight attendants are the only work group that can do this form, and the company pays. We don't have any fees taken out or any reduction for filling out this form, because that was something that APFA negotiated back in the day. Also, you have to have been married at least 1 year, so no deathbed marriages or anything.
Yeah.
Darn it. Any questions about 401k, pensions, anything else we haven't covered?
All right, I got the first one, and it's an easy one. How long will your pension pay out after you're retired? If you take the single life annuity, the joint, the minimum number of checks, it will pay out for your life no matter how long you live. You lived 160, that pension will pay out for all 160 years, not to mention all of the fame and you'll get. So that's an easy answer. If you take the more upfront, you're one of those few rare people that take the level income option, talk to us, talk to your financial planner. All right, Kim, I have Social Security, disability, and long-term benefits right now. Will those continue until I'm 65 years old? What if I retire early?
Okay, so the way it works with Social Security, disability, and the long-term disability benefit from the company is usually people file for long-term disability, and then after they start receiving their benefits, MetLife has it written into the policy that you are required to file for Social Security disability. So you file for Social Security disability. Once you start receiving those Social Security disability benefits, there's an offset for MetLife. So MetLife will just reduce the amount they're paying you and just supplement the short-term disability benefits. So your Social Security disability benefits will continue until you hit your full Social Security age. So if, say, you're 61 and you start your Social Security disability benefits, they're going to continue to pay if you were born in 1960 or after until you turn 67. When you turn 67, they're going to automatically bridge you over to your full regular Social Security. With the MetLife disability benefits, if you were to file your claim after the age of 60, the longest you can get long-term disability for is 5 years. So if you were awarded Social Security disability and you filed your claim after the age of 60, the longest you could get it would be for 5 years. And that supplement from MetLife. If you file your claim before the age of 60, then you can get it until you turn 65. So it depends on what age you are when you file your long-term disability claim. So I hope that answered the question.
I think you did. I think you got it there. All right, this one's for me, and there's a shout out to you and Ron and for being always so helpful. Amazing is the word. But the question is, I'm starting my Social Security and my pension, and they want to know if I want taxes deducted from it and how much and how do I calculate that? Okay, this is a sort of an ongoing thing. And as an active, let's talk about active employees. They take federal tax out of your every paycheck, and you have to go in and fill out a form. I believe it's the W-4.
Right.
That says how much you want them to take out. We were just talking about this because they changed the form. We've been the rule. We've been talking about these for decades. And the question is, do you want to have enough taken out so that when you file your taxes yesterday, do you owe money or do you get a refund? And there's a really good argument that says, well, I don't want a refund because that means I gave the government a tax-free loan. And that's absolutely true. The other good argument is, I don't want to end up having to pay a big slug of money on April 15th when I file my taxes. I'd rather get some or maybe even a lot of money back because that's kind of the government forced me to save money, and I kind of like the lump sum. So it depends on which will annoy you more.
And then there's a middle ground. You can try and do just enough.
Just enough, yeah.
You don't have to pay, but you're not really getting a refund either.
Right. So which is going to work best for you in terms of your level of comfort with owing the money or getting money back? It's the same question for your Social Security and your pension. Do you want to get money back when you file for your income taxes, or do you want to end up owing?
I had someone call me, they thought they'd figured it out. They were going to take zero out of their paycheck until the last 3 paychecks of the year, and then they were going to do 100% in their taxes. I said, you absolutely can do that for 1 year. When you go to file your taxes that year, they're going to say, oh yeah, you paid us enough money, but you didn't pay it on time.
Mhm.
And therefore, they require you to start filing 4 times a year instead of once a year.
Right.
So quarterly estimated payments. And that's because, you know, that money you're paying Uncle Sam, they've already spent it. They need it now. And they don't want that cash sitting in your pocket when they could be spending it. So the rule is you kind of have to pay it as the debt is accrued, you have to send them the money. And if you wait too long, they'll make you file more frequently.
And if you're retiring and you don't know what to do, just look at your W-4 that's on file with the company and do the same thing, you know?
Yeah.
And then you can always change it. This is something you can go in and change at any time. It's not set in stone. You know, your pension annuity option, once you choose that, it's set in stone. But your, you know, W-4R or whatever it is that you have to file for your retirement income, you can adjust that at any time.
Yeah, yeah. All right.
Oh,
Let's
wait,
talk about-
there was another thing down at the bottom about pensions, I think. Does US Air PBGC continue to increase after the full age of 62? So that answer, if you don't start taking it at the full age, there is a little bit of an actuarial increase. So say you wait and start taking it, you know, at 65 or 70 or something, there is a little bit of an increase. We don't know what that is. You'd have to call the PBGC to find out. But yes, there is a little bit of an increase. And then how many years will your pension pay out? In most situations, it would be a life annuity. So for your lifetime. And then if you have a joint annuitant for the rest of their life, what's left of it. There's a few situations with the LAA pensions, if you choose that level income option, because our pensions were reduced with bankruptcy, so they're smaller than they should be when you retire, that you could burn through the, say you started at age, you retire at 60 and you take the Social Security normal retirement age and get more until you turn 67, you could potentially burn through it all on the front end if you didn't have a very big pension. So
I think we've seen that twice so far.
Yeah.
It's rare. Oh, there was that, also another one. What's the formula to retire with company years and service? What's the total amount?
65-point plan,
65-point plan.
which is you have to have at least 10 years of company seniority based on your date of hire, and your age plus your years of service has to equal 65 or more. And there is a calculator on JetNet. Scroll down to team member services. You'll see a little box that says retirement. Click on that. I think it may be the last little thing, 65-point plan calculator. And it shows you what your age plus your years of service are. And it's kind of like mine. I was like, whoa, it makes me feel really old. My age plus my years of service were more than 100. So.
All
Yeah,
right.
I'm eligible.
All right, let's talk about medical insurance options.
Okay, so we've talked about income, we've talked about, you know, little retirement perks. But another thing, big thing you need to think about is your medical insurance options. So what are they? Well, one, we have COBRA, and these are kind of, they've got the little dollar signs to show you kind of the cost factor of all these things. So COBRA is pretty expensive. The AA retiree medical insurance that they offer if you're between, 55 and 65 and eligible for the 65-point plan, that's even more expensive than COBRA. So yes, they do offer retiree medical insurance. It's more expensive than COBRA and not very many people take it. The Affordable Care Act. So it's still hanging in there for the moment. And depending on what state you live in, because you know, it varies from state to state, but it can be an affordable option for people, especially if your retirement income is such that you would qualify for a subsidy. Medicare, yes, it's pretty affordable. It's kind of comparable to what we're paying from the company, surprisingly. There seems to be a myth out there that Medicare is free. Part A, there's not a charge from it. It's because you've been paying into it your whole career. most people, but there is a fee for Medicare. So don't be thinking it's free, and it's reasonable compared to a lot of these other options, but you still have to pay for it. The old-fashioned way, you can marry somebody with insurance or switch over to your spouse's insurance if that's an option, or die young, but that's really not an option. I'm not planning on it. I think I've already.
I think I missed
That
that.
ship has sailed, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so COBRA, let's talk a little bit about COBRA. COBRA is called continuation of coverage. So it's not a new insurance. It is a law that forces the company to let you continue the insurance that you had as an active employee, and you don't have to reestablish your deductible or out-of-pocket max if you elect COBRA, which is great. Somewhat negative is that now you're paying the full cost of that insurance. So when you were active, you were paying 20%, which seems like a lot, and AA was paying 80%. Now you're paying the full cost plus a 2% admin fee. The coverage can last for 18 months. Normally it lasts for 18 months. If you become eligible for Social Security disability, you could get an extension for a total of 29 months. So it must be taken. You have to make your COBRA election within 60 days of leaving or 60 days of becoming eligible for COBRA. If you're out on a medical leave and you go past your 12 months of AA subsidized benefits. It's a one-shot deal. So once you're offered COBRA, say you get COBRA because you're out on a medical leave and then you retire, they're not going to offer it to you again when you retire. And if you don't elect COBRA during the enrollment window of 60 days, they're not going to offer it to you again. All right, more about COBRA. It can include your medical, dental, vision, and flex spending, and you can mix and match the coverage. So for instance, a lot of people who retire and are eligible for Medicare, they elect, obviously, Medicare for their medical benefits, but they often choose to continue their dental and vision with COBRA because it's a little bit, pretty good benefit as far as compared to some of the options that you can get from Medicare brokers and so on. All right, once your coverage begins, it's retroactive to the date you leave American Airlines. So if you can't go, oh, I have 60 days to enroll, so I'm not going to have to go back and pay for those 2 months. Yes, you do. It's retro back to the date you left the company. It's retro to your COBRA eligibility date. So most people like to sign up for it pretty quickly so they don't have to go back and pay for 2 months, at once. All right. Payments, you don't want to be late or your coverage will be dropped. If you really need the coverage and you're electing COBRA, make sure you don't pay late because they're really quick to drop you from the coverage. All right, more information about COBRA when it comes to Medicare. If you are eligible for Medicare, COBRA is always secondary to Medicare, and it's not considered to be creditable coverage when it comes as an alternative to Medicare. When we're active, our AA benefits are considered creditable coverage for Medicare. So you can go straight from AA coverage if you're over 65 to Medicare without incurring any penalties. There's a little paperwork we'll talk about. But if you decide to go on COBRA for several months a year and then go on Medicare, it's not creditable coverage. So you will be slapped with late enrollment penalties. You don't want to do that. Also, the COBRA is not going to pay as it should because it's going to act like Medicare's there paying first whether or not you sign up for it. So basically, if you're eligible for Medicare, you don't have an option. You need to sign up for Medicare. COBRA is always secondary to Medicare. That's the point I just made. And okay, your retiree medical insurance, here's some options there. So the AA retiree medical insurance, as I mentioned before, you have to be between 55 and 65 and eligible for the 65-point plan, and they will offer it to you. They're going to offer it to you at the same time as they offer COBRA, so don't be, make sure you know what you're signing up for. With this plan, the participant pays the full cost. and the price is uncapped. It actually doubled in 2015. It's very unstable because there's not very many people in the plan, and a lot of them have pretty severe health issues. So basically, it can get expensive. So how much does it cost? Well, first of all, let's talk about the insurance and how it works. It's great insurance. It's really good. It's like a $150 deductible
What?
for
I
one
love that.
person, $1,000 out-of-pocket max. It's fabulous.
Sign me up.
Yeah, I'm ready to sign up. Nothing's like that anymore, but the cost for a single person for 2025, $2,762 a month. Yikes. So now that our support animal has fainted at the sight of these costs, it's really horrific. Basically, what are some other options? So if you're not yet eligible for Medicare, as we mentioned, there is the Affordable Care Act. You would go to healthcare.gov to put in your zip code and all the plans will come up. Or, you could be eligible for tax credits if your income's on the lower side, which is good. If you don't want to go to healthcare.gov and put in your zip code and get your email box filled with emails, another option is to call VIA Benefits. They're a company that AA contracts with. And if you're under 65 when you retire and you need to find an Affordable Care Act plan, you can call them and they'll help you with that. If you're over 65 and you're not sure what Medicare plan to sign up for, they can help you with that as well. So we've got their number, both of these numbers in our retirement packet, and their website is myviabenefits.com/American Airlines.
All right, well, let's talk about Medicare.
Medicare.
All right.
Okay, what are the different parts of Medicare and why is it so confusing?
Well, I tell you, it does seem really confusing, but you know the most common question we get?
What?
I'm turning 65, or my spouse is turning 65, and I'm still flying. Do we have to sign up for Medicare? And the answer is no.
But my sister said I had to.
I love your sister, but she's wrong. You do not have to sign up for Medicare.
But your brother-in-law said I had to.
Absolutely. And said, not only that, but said I would pay a penalty. Tattler magazine said I had to sign up or I'd pay a penalty. No. If you have active employee insurance, or your spouse is covered under that, neither of you have to sign up until your insurance ends. So that's the easy part. And let's talk about the parts. We've got Part A, Part B, and Part D. This is called Classic Medicare. And the Part A covers the hospitalization. Part A was what came in back in the 1930s, 40s. And it covers hospitalization because back then the hospital was the thing that really made people go bankrupt. And so Part A is the one you have been pre-funding your entire career. Out of every paycheck, there's a little deduction called FUTA. And except now they can actually call it Medicare. So much clearer. And so you pre-funded it. There's no premium for it. It covers what it covers.
How long do you have to have paid into that? Do you know?
10 years.
Okay, 10 years. So say you came to this career late in life and you stayed home and you worked from home and you homeschooled all your kids and then you work for AA less than 10 years, you might have to pay for Medicare Part A. There's a few people that do. Most people don't, but there are a few people that do.
We actually several years ago had someone that left, had not worked. They'd been a stay-at-home mom. They came to us for, 7 or 8 years. And they were actually 1.5 years short of having enough credits for Medicare. They went and got that part-time job at Walmart for 6 months, got their half a year of Medicare credit, and then qualified for Medicare. So that was pretty good. And Part B covers doctor's visits and labs, and then Part D for drugs, cover your drugs. Now, Part A and Part B are administered by the federal government, Social Security Administration, the Medicare Administration. Part D is from a private insurance plan. And so you will have options for more than one Part D. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But one of the things about these is old people tend to be clever. Well, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm not gonna enroll until I'm sick and
Are
need
you saying I'm tight?
That's how I managed to get enough
call it-
money to retire.
I call it frugal.
Yeah, I prefer frugal. That's much better one. However,
because old people may try and trick the system, they have late enrollment fees. And that's what your sister was talking about. If you're late signing up, you're going to pay a penalty. Well, what's late? Late is either at age 65 if you're not working, or within 60 days of when you leave your active employer. If you don't sign up when you should have, either when you leave your active employment or at 65, they will charge you a penalty. Well, how do they know that I had other employee insurance? I'll just lie about it. Yeah, no such
There's a
luck.
form for that.
There is a form, because this is
There's
federal.
always a form.
There's always a form. This is the Medicare Employment Verification Form. And Kim has the name of this memorized.
EMSL 564.
Yes. So, and this looks suspiciously like that family leave form. You fill out the top part, send it in, and the go.
Except it's much shorter.
Much shorter, yes. And the employer fills out the bottom part. They won't let me fill it out because they figure I'll lie about that. So the employer has to fill it out, but then they send it back to me and I got to get it in there.
And they snail mail it back to you. So
Great.
you fax it in, they snail mail it back to you. So getting signed up for Medicare, really quick. Getting this form back from the company, not so much.
Yeah.
That's what takes the time.
The good news is that you'll get your insurance, even if this form's not received yet. The only thing this form argues about is how much you pay, and that can be fixed down the road. But you don't have to have this form before Medicare kicks
But
in.
it makes it easier.
Makes it so much easier. So, because then you don't have to do all the verification. So we've got our Part A, our Part B, and our Part D. The issue is that Part A and B are 80-20 plans. That Medicare will pay 80% of your bill, you pay the 20%, which, is fine, unless you go into the hospital and have $1 million worth of surgery done. All of a sudden, your 20% is now $200,000, and there is no out-of-pocket max. What do we do about that? Well, there's something called a Medigap policy, and the Medigap policy covers that gap. There are 10 different Medigap policies available. If you look in our lovely Good Slide retirement handbook, we show you the 10 plans, or they're available online. But AA retirees have an 11th option for a Medigap. It's a Medigap VIVA, created specifically for retired airline workers. So you'll want to get Part A, Part B, Part D, and a Medigap plan. So that's classic Medicare, made up of those 4 parts. And again, remember, you're paying for Part D and the Medigap out of pocket in addition to your payment to Medicare for the Part B plan. Now, what if this is just overwhelming and too complicated? There is a thing called Advantage Plan, which sadly enough is called a Part C, because there aren't enough parts within Medicare. And what a Advantage Plan is, that you're privatizing your Medicare into an HMO. So HMOs work great for some people. They're horrible for others. I had an HMO for, I think, the first, 10 years or so. I was a flight attendant, and I loved it. And I loved it so much, they closed down the HMO and took it out of Texas. Thank you very much. I then went to another HMO and had a horrible experience. They wouldn't approve anything. None of my doctors were in. The couple that were in the HMO's network quit because the HMO wouldn't pay them. And I was driving to, almost Oklahoma to try and find a doctor. So sometimes HMOs work great, sometimes they don't. But that's basically what the Advantage Plan is you're going into their system. Now, they're apparently quite profitable.
They're quite profitable. And they do have some Medigap, well, not Medigap, but Advantage plans that call themselves PPOs now. So they may be structured a little bit differently, but I think for all of the Advantage plans, there's a network that you have to be in.
Yeah.
You can't just go to any doctor. It has to be a doctor in their network.
Yes. And because they're profitable, they would like you to get into abandon your classic Medicare and come into an Advantage plan. And so they offer you incentives.
Perks.
The incentives, perks, bribes, I don't know, you can call it what you're going to call it. And it's like a gym membership, or one of the plans will pay for your Part B premium.
Or you don't have to pay for your Part D.
Yeah, because they'll roll that into the Advantage. Or I saw one the other day with a client who their Advantage plan paid for their shuttle from their house to their doctor and back.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, and it may work great for you, or it may be horrible.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Make
So-
sure you know what you're signing up for and what we're kind of seeing with the Advantage plans, if you're, the premiums and you don't have to pay Part D, you just have to pay your Part B, and it's a lot less on a monthly basis, generally speaking. But when you start racking up the expenses, sometimes your out-of-pockets are a lot higher and your cost for certain drugs and things can be a lot higher. So just make sure, base it on your health situation and make sure you know what you're signing up for. Consult a Medicare advisor.
Exactly. A Medicare advisor. Yes, Medicare advisors. It's a whole industry because it's so complicated. And not only is there the via benefits that Kim showed earlier, but there are also several companies that's all they do is give Medicare advice. Here's the thing you want to watch out for. Several of those Medicare advisors get a
Most of them do.
get a commission if they put you into this plan as opposed to that plan. So somehow they always seem to recommend that you go into the plan that they get a commission for. You can also do some of your own research on Medicare.gov. It's not on the slide, but AARP has a Advantage plan shopping tool. I guess it's good. They have their own Advantage plan, but I haven't played with it to see whether or not they always recommend their own plan.
I don't think they do.
No.
And also another tip I heard recently is if you have health issues and you're talking to a Medicare advisor, they can't ask you because of HIPAA, do you have any health issues? Are you on any drugs? Which doctors do you like to see? But if you are willing to disclose that information, they're going to find a plan that's better for you that covers those things. So, I would, if it were me and I was signing up, I would list every drug I'm on, every doctor I see, everything that's wrong with me so that I get in the right plan for me. But they can't ask you that.
They can't ask you that.
You can tell them, but they can't ask.
Yeah, and sometimes it's relevant. Yes, I'm on dialysis. Okay, that's going to be a totally different plan. Okay, we're getting messages, but it'll be fine.
Are we going over? Oh, no, not yet.
Not yet. Okay, Kim, what can you tell us about other things we need to research?
Okay, so we talked about, medical, COBRA. Here's some other little things kind of along those lines that you need to look at before you retire. Basically, you need to be aware of life events, optional insurance coverage, your dental insurance. What are you going to do about that? Flexible spending accounts, how to handle those. So we'll start with life events. Keep in mind that your retirement is your spouse or your partner's life event to add you to their benefits. So if you're planning to go on a spouse's benefits, you usually have 30 to 60 days to do that. So, they have to go to their company and add you to the their medical insurance. And if you miss that window, you probably have to wait till open enrollment. So make sure you don't miss the window. If you're married to another AA employee, you can do the same thing. You have the same life event, but if you're on your own coverage and you switch to your spouse's coverage, you're starting over with your deductible and out of pocket because they treat it like you're going on a new plan. So keep that in mind. Sometimes people that are retiring, a few months before the end of the year say they're going to wait until October and retire on November 1st so they get paid out for their vacation at the higher contractual rate that kicks in on October 1st. Then maybe they're going to elect COBRA for 2 months, November and December, before they go on their spouse's insurance on January 1st, if they've met their deductible and out-of-pocket max. If you haven't, go ahead and go on your spouse's during the life event, So there's different ways that you can work it depending on your situation. More about optional insurance. Okay, so your optional insurance is basically anything like your life insurance, MetLife legal, long-term care policies, home and auto, pet insurance. So for anything you get through what is the AA added benefits, basically, which is the MetLife legal, long-term care, home and auto policies, and your pet insurance, those policies they're all individual policies and they can be continued after you retire. You just reach out to the administrators of those policies. And if you don't know who they are, you can call AA Added Benefits and they will tell you and help you set it up to continue those. Your employee life insurance and accident insurance will end. However, you will be offered the opportunity to port or convert your life insurance into a private policy. And here it says within 30 days, but I think that's been extended to 60 days. But so you can choose to port or convert all or a portion of your life insurance if you want to. And the good things are it doesn't require a physical exam to qualify. So that's good if you have a health issue and you know no one's going to give you life insurance when you retire. You can contact New York Life for the life insurance. And I mean, for the voluntary AD&D or voluntary personal accident insurance, and MetLife for the life insurance. The bad thing is it's kind of expensive. So a lot of people choose to just convert a portion of their life insurance into an individual policy. Okay, long-term and short-term disability coverage end because they're based on being disabled from your job and your job is ending when you retire. However, if you're already out and receiving long-term or short-term disability, basically the payments from MetLife will continue as long as you're eligible to receive those payments.
My STDs end when I retire?
Your STDs
Whoa.
Oh my
I
gosh.
spend those layovers.
I never thought you could get rid of that so easily, but okay, dental insurance. Basically, MetLife will offer you retiree dental insurance. A lot of people don't realize, just like there's really expensive retiree medical insurance that you can get if you're eligible for the 65-point plan. They're going to offer you retiree dental insurance as well. Unfortunately, it's not that great of a coverage. So it's zip code rated and kind of high dollar, low benefit. So what you're paying is not really worth the benefits that you're receiving from this plan. So not very many people take it. What a lot of people look at is some dental discount networks, such as the AA Credit Union. They have one through Dental Benefits Services of America. And then Costco has one. I think there's others out there. A lot of dentist office offer these things now and little plans that you can, if you have a plan and you run through all your benefits, then the dentist offices offer something you can have to kind of supplement that. So that's a good thing to check as well. You can go to dental schools and be a guinea pig. I don't want to end up looking like this guy though. And then also another option is many Medicare supplement plans will offer you a additional coverage you can buy into for dental. It used to be not very good, but now they're finally realizing that, hey, we want to take care of our teeth after we retire. So they're getting a little bit better, I think, with the dental coverages that are offered in conjunction with Medicare. Also, a lot of people will COBRA their dental benefits when they sign up for Medicare. They'll keep their AA dental and vision for another 18 months and use that to get a lot of things done. So that's an option as well. All right, your flex spending accounts. We just had to get all this submitted recently. I think it was March 31st, and Patrick and I were both putting things in at the last minute. But your flex spending, usually, if you just happened on March 31st, if you haven't submitted everything for 2024, you would have lost it, except for I think $625
$25 or something.
Yeah, something like that. So they carry over a little bit every year, but for the rest of it, if you don't use it, you lose it. Now, when you retire, you have the option of kind of getting your own back on the company a little bit. So say you're going to, and we always look at a reason to do that. Say you're going to retire mid-year, your birthday is in July, you're going to retire August 1st. Well, if you use up all your benefits prior to that time, then when you retire, you don't have to pay those FSA deposits for the rest of the year. So you use it all and then they lose out on some of it because you don't have to keep making the deposits. So something to think about. And the earlier in the year you retire, the more you can maximize that.
All right.
So
yes.
Patrick, tell us, how do you decide? It's confusing.
It
it's
is very
complicated.
confusing.
Where
There
do we
are a
start?
lot of moving pieces, but I've got good news for you. It's nothing you can't handle.
What?
You've looked down that aisle of that wide body and looked at all those faces and figured out all the stuff that needs to go on, and you've made it happen day after day after day. Yes, it's complicated, but it's nothing you can't handle. So what else do you need to do before you leave? I have a recommendation. Start a list. And actually, there's a great checklist on page 37 of the APFA Retirement Handbook Package. Good slide. That's a good place to start. That list is, I like to say, over-inclusive. It includes everything, most of which won't even apply to you, but it's a great place to start, and then add your own onto there. And how do you follow a list? You've been to CQ. How do you follow a list? One task, step at a time, in order, just like that planned emergency checklist, which I have coming up in 2 weeks. Not looking forward to that. So I like to call mine my planned departure checklist, and you will find it will work wonders because you at least have a direction and know what you're going to do next. I have a question for you. How many times have you retired in your life? Probably zero. Yeah. Probably zero.
Not yet.
And therefore, don't be afraid to ask questions. This is the first time you've done this, and you're not going to just do it intuitively. There's nothing about retirement that's intuitive. So ask questions. Please feel free to reach out to us. Retirement@apfa.org is a great email address to send questions to. We will, if we don't know the answers, and there's a good chance we do, but if we don't, we have a pretty good idea who will know the answers. So don't be afraid to ask questions. I've got good news. You get this all done, you get your checklist, you're prepared.
Woohoo.
Woo, you've got this. Let's go. You're ready. Good slide. Hey, Kim, questions?
Yes, we've got a few more questions. So
All right.
I guess there's quite a few for me here.
Yes. Okay. How do I transition from our active health to Medicare when I'm retiring?
So what we usually suggest when you're, transitioning to Medicare is about maybe 2.5 months before, if you're over 65, then about 2.5 months before you retire, you get that, employment verification form from Medicare, and you fill it out and you fax it into the company, and then hopefully within at least a month or sooner, they'll get it back to you. So that gives you about 6 weeks to get signed up for Medicare. So once you have that form in your hand, you take it along with the application for Medicare Part B over to your Social Security office, and sometimes they'll let you make an appointment, sometimes they won't. I would call them to find out what the best way to do it is, because, and there's a lot of changes right now with the staffing cuts and so on the federal level. So the sooner you can get the form back and start the process. But remember, Medicare does a 60-day look back. So when they get the form and say you want to sign up for Medicare starting on July 1st, they're going to do a look back to see that you've had coverage within the last 60 days prior to that. So if you get the form too far out, it's not going to show that you've had coverage in the last 60 days. So that's why it's good to do it about, 2.5 months before you retire, get all that done, take it, and you tell them, I want to start. It always starts on the 1st of a month. So you say, I want my Medicare to start on July 1st. And then when you're timing your retirement, you also want to retire on July 1st, because your Medicare, your AA active benefits are going to end on midnight of your last day as an active employee. So if you retire on July 1st, you are retired on July 1st, and your AA active benefits will end at midnight on June 30th. So if you've already done everything to get Medicare set up for July 1st, you'll be good to go.
All right. So I now understand how to transition to Medicare. Thank you.
You're
However,
welcome.
my spouse is not yet 65. Can they go on COBRA if I go on Medicare?
Yes, they can, because you're going to be offered COBRA even if you're eligible for Medicare. And as I mentioned before, a lot of people choose to continue the dental and vision when they go on Medicare. So if your spouse is not yet 65, you can elect the medical, dental, and vision for them, and just the dental and vision for yourself.
All right, cool. Great, except I am 62 and not eligible for Medicare. Is there any medical coverage out there I can get?
And unfortunately, you're going to get offered that really expensive benefit from the company, as long as you're eligible for the 65-point plan, because you're within that window. And then your main option is COBRA or the Affordable Care Act. So that's a problem that a lot of us are facing. There's just not good options. And we've tried fighting with the company. We're like, why can't you let us, if we retire between those ages, just continue to pay for our active benefits at the active rate for a few years? We've tried suggesting tons of things. So far, they're not going for it. The one thing they were willing to go for was the RHRA. And we do have a few questions about that. But if you have a lot of sick time and you can put that money in the RHRA, that could conceivably be your bridge and pay for your premiums until you hit Medicare. So we have negotiated that. We've tried a lot of other things, believe me. We would love to get back our pre-funded benefits, but in this day and age, that's probably not going to happen. It doesn't mean we're going to stop trying, though. But for now, your options are the Affordable Care Act, COBRA, if you're not eligible, the really expensive AA retiree medical, which you're probably not going to choose. Go on a spouse's benefit, get a part-time job at someplace like, Starbucks or Home Depot or Trader Joe's that offers pretty good benefits, and you don't have to necessarily work that many hours to get benefits,
All right. Speaking of that RHRA, what can I use that for, like my COBRA premiums?
Yes, you can. A lot of people that took the VOPS, weren't yet 65 and they got the COBRA, and you can use it for your COBRA premiums. If you still have some left after COBRA, you can use it for your Medicare premiums. You can use it for your Affordable Care Act premiums. The only premiums you can't use for the RHRA get reimbursed basically are premiums that are deducted tax-free out of somebody's paycheck. So if your spouse is working and you're going to go on their benefits and their premiums are deducted out of their paycheck, you can't use it to be reimbursed for those premiums. If you go on your spouse's benefits, you can be reimbursed for your out-of-pocket expenses, your co-pays, things that you have to pay, but nothing that's deducted tax-free out of somebody's paycheck.
All right. Okay, shifting gears a little bit. How do I choose a financial planner?
Oh, Patrick, that's a good one for you.
All right. You choose a financial planner, I recommend two different avenues and see what cross-check. First is ask people that are similarly situated to you. Your cousin who's on welfare probably is a bad person to ask about their financial planner, but your similarly situated spouse or sibling may have recommendations. And then once you have a couple of recommendations, do a Google search. Check and see if this person recently got out of jail. Check and see if they are licensed. Check and see if they're a certified financial planner. And then once you've narrowed it down to one or two potential providers, talk to them, and you want to ask a couple of questions. One is, are you a fiduciary? That means that they are legally obligated to make suggestions that are better for you as opposed to suggestions that are better for them. And that almost always comes down to commissions. You want to know how this financial planner is getting paid. I am very partial to fee for service. I'm going to pay you $175 an hour to give me advice, and you're not going to make any more or less depending on the advice you give me. If you're a free person and you're making money off commissions, that's how you get paid. I worry that your advice may be slanted toward the investment product that gives you the best commission. So that's how you get a financial planner.
Or you can ask your friends if you have a friend who really has their stuff together, or a relative or something like that, another flight attendant. But if they seem to really have it together as far as finances and stuff like that, that's another place to start. Also, the credit union, they will give you a free financial workup, and that might be a good place to start before you even go to a different financial planner. Or you may find that the information from the AA credit union is enough to meet your needs. So
yeah. I went to the credit union for a second opinion on my financial plan. And the plan I got from them, and it's Flagship Financial Services, the plan I got from them was so much better than the one I'd gotten from the first financial planner that I now go with the credit union. Okay, here's a question for me. How do I actually do the RHRA reimbursement? It's pretty easy, actually. You have two choices. Just like with your FSA and your HSA, you can have a debit card that you use for appropriate purchases, and they pay the vendor directly. The other choice is you can pay for yourself and then take the receipts and submit them for reimbursement to you. If you do the receipt route, two things. Number one, if it's a cardiologist, no one's going to think you got anything other than approved expenses there. But if it's CVS, they don't know whether you got approved medications or Boone's Farm apple wine. So they're going to want something more than the credit card receipt. They're going to want something that shows what was paid for. That gets really weird if you go to a dentist, because the filling is covered, the teeth whitening is not. So they're going to want to see the itemized bill, and there's a code that the medical industry uses to identify what service was provided. So you're going to want a copy of a receipt with the code. The billing people know exactly what you're asking for. So you get two choices. Oh, by the way, one of those pro tip things is, I had a friend that decided that had been using the debit card to pay for their, I think it was their premiums, I forget on what policy. And they instead switched from the card, and now they're using their Barclays Advantage card and getting miles and then getting reimbursed. So yeah, okay. I guess this one's for me. Why is the union not fighting for a plan for us to retire early instead of waiting at 67 or 65 to get full benefits, when there could be a supplemental insurance plan to bridge us from at least age 60? And I think Kim touched on that. And part of it is there's not an unlimited pie. That we were talking about the premiums on the retirement healthcare, $2,700 a month, which is going to be $33,000 a year, which over 5 years would be $167,000. And if there's two of you, we're over $300,000 cost for that 5 years of supplemental bridge insurance. And I for one would think that's a great investment of the money. A lot of people think it might be better invested in a salary increase for everyone, or better reserve rules, and it's not that the people haven't asked for it. It's that there's a competing interest, and we're in a democracy. All right, Kim, what's the total years of service and company seniority in order to be eligible to retire? I think we covered that.
Yes, but back to the previous question, you can retire pretty early. I mean, if your age plus your years of service equals 65 or more, and you have 10 years of company seniority, that's the 65-point plan, which is AA's retirement eligibility criteria. So as long as you meet the 65-point plan, you can retire. So the union has fought, and you can retire pretty early as soon as you're eligible for the 65-point plan. We continue to fight for the benefits that go along with retirement, and we're not going to stop that, but you can retire early. But if you choose to do so, there's certain things that may or may not come with that. And we're always going to be fighting to get better benefits when you retire. And we are so well aware that the health benefits are key, It's just that we get a lot of pushback from the company. And in negotiations, as Patrick said, people tend to prioritize, higher pay and vacation and so on before, that's on the list. And if you looked at our demographic slide earlier, now we have more people who are age 55 and below. And so they think they're never going to retire, I thought that until recently.
I was never going to retire. Yeah, and that's a good point. You look at the demographics. You've got a 25-year-old, and asking them, do they want to spend the money
in our pot
for better retiree medical or for better something today? retiring is so far out of their
Realm.
life experience, but expectations that clearly they're going to choose it today. All right. Now, I'll take this question. I saw you talk earlier about how AA Legacy cannot double dip and take the pension while they're working, but US Air can. I thought we integrated all the benefits, and we integrated a lot of the benefits, but pension isn't one of them. You'll remember Kim talked about there's the LAA pension, and there's 5 LUS pensions, because in all of the integrations that LUS went through, they never integrated the pensions, or at least not.
Well, they went to the PBGC
Right.
way before we merged with Legacy US Airways, so they were already there.
Right.
And then when AA went through bankruptcy, the bankruptcy judge ruled that AA had to keep funding their pension. They wanted to send it to the PBGC and get rid of that obligation, but they were able to freeze it, so your benefits didn't get any bigger after the bankruptcy, but they still have to fund it. So,
Yeah, and because who's administering it is different, the PBGC pensions allow you to draw it now. The LAA pensions, there's a rule in the pension that says you can't draw it until you retire.
and there was a rule with the Legacy US Airways pensions that said you could not take your pension while you were still working for US Airways or Piedmont or Trump Shuttle or whatever. But when those pensions went to the PBGC, now they're not with those companies anymore, which those companies don't exist anymore. But AA is still holding in trust. It's not part of their operating capital or anything, but that pensions, Legacy AA pensions are still held in trust, and AA is still putting money into them. And their pension plan language, which they have to follow, says that you can't start your pension until you're retired, except for the tiny loophole we referred to earlier. So,
All right, super. That's the last of our questions, and we're going to go ahead and close out here. But we wanted to say thank you so much for spending the time with us today. And we assume you will have more questions. Retirement@apfa.org, and please feel free to reach out to us. American has some people that will help you with some of the retirement questions, but don't just sit there and wonder about it. Reach out and ask people, because you haven't retired before.
and we've had a few issues with the phone system here at APFA for the last week or so. So if you haven't been able to get in, they're switching to a new system. I have an extension, but some people have told me it hasn't been working. So if you go into the APFA phone system and it asks you if you want to speak to a rep on duty, hit 1. And then it will list a bunch of different kinds of reps. So if you hit 1 for a rep on duty, and then once it starts listing all the different contract scheduling, IOD, retirements, number 6 on the list. So you hit 1 and then you wait for them to start listing, and then you hit 6, you'll get put through to the retirement department. I'm on the phone a lot. My calls tend to be long. So if I'm on the phone when you call, you'll be able to leave me a voicemail and I'll try and call you back as soon as possible. And apologies, even though I had nothing to do with it, for the glitchiness of the phone system lately.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Bye.